Hello and welcome back. My name is Rebecca Escott and today I'm going to show you another quick and fun Christmas tumbler. So as you'll notice, I have already painted my tumbler and I did paint it a candy pink from Rust-Oleum and allowed this to completely dry overnight so that I could do the glitter and epoxy method. So I am using the fast set from Counterculture DIY and I have mixed in cotton candy, which is a beautiful mirror fine from AB Designs. I allowed this to fully cure, which was about 3 hours before I could come into the next step. So once we're fully cured, it was then safe to go in and start taping off for my candy cane stripes. So in order to do this, I've decided to go ahead and use a couple of thin pieces of my vinyl tape that I purchased from Amazon. If you don't have this tape works really well in making curves around your tumbler and is so much easier than working with electrical tape and or scotch tape. When I'm starting out with my stripes for my candy cane tumbler, I'm kind of wrapping it around the entire tumbler, as you can see, and I go back and forth as using the wider style tape, and then you'll see that I go in with 2 thin stripes. Candy canes are somewhat the same but also different, and so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap the entire thing. So I cut a big portion of this section out, as it did take me quite a few minutes to go ahead and get the whole thing wrapped. Here I'm just really eyeballing it essentially to where I'm gonna place my next one, just making sure that I'm happy with that very first one, as it really sets the stage for the rest of the swirls to follow. So here is the much thinner or less wide tape that I'm going to be using, and I'll do 1 wide, 2 not quite so wide, if that makes sense, and then I alternate. So it does get a little bit tricky at the end, as you'll see that there's a little bit of a gap, but I did slightly adjust that. But it's just so busy with the swirls that you don't even really notice. I also want to mention why I'm going to go ahead and continue to start wrapping these around, that you'll notice that I cut the bottom end of my vinyl tape and then just roll it over the ends, because I'm not going to worry about that right now. When I get ready to spray paint, I'm just going to leave that, and then when it's completely spray painted and re-epoxied, I will then go in and we're going to fix up the bottom. So now we're going to be working on the last swirl. So this is where you're going to notice that it got a little bit wonky down at the end, and it was a little bit more gapped than you see the rest of the tumbler. But again, I did not stress that at all, as again, the tumbler is kind of busy. Not kind of, it is super busy. So again, it's not really that noticeable. And I did shift that bottom stripe just a little bit to where it would seem more cohesive. So once I had the entire thing wrapped, I decided to go ahead and use a oblong square, if you will, to place down the center of the tumbler, which is where my Merry Christmas decal is going to go. So here I'm just making sure that it's pretty even at the top and the bottom, and then I'll just press it down, and I'm going to leave that while I ombre spray paint my colors around the tumbler. I also want to point out too that yes, I had my Cricut cut this shape. I couldn't cut a straight line if I tried. So I went ahead and just pulled the shape and the sizing up in the Cricut and just allowed it to cut it, just using a random piece of extra vinyl that I had laying around. Once that step was complete, we're then ready to spray paint using white and aromatherapy from Color Shot, as I wanted an ombre with purple at the top and the bottom, and as you can see, white in the center. Once it completely dried, it was then ready for its first coat of epoxy, which I'm using Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. Always use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. Okay, so if you remember just a few seconds ago, you saw the gray little box that I used for this template. Well, I decided to do an offset using that gray box as my template. And when I tell you, I was not saying Merry Christmas when I was doing this decal. It fought me so hard. I don't understand what actually happened, but my box did not line up correctly. So I wanted to show you that instead of just tearing this all off and recutting, I'm pretty much trying to manipulate it and get it into place. Well, it worked on the side, not so much the top. So unfortunately, I might have been saying naughty words and not being quite so nice because this flustered me and I could not understand why. Offsets are usually very, very simple and they go into place just as they should. Well, unfortunately, I needed to kind of piece this together like a puzzle. So I had to remove the top line, replace the top line. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could have just taken all this off, recut it and redid it and never seemed like there was an issue. But I really wanted to show you things can be fixable, providing that you don't have a coat of epoxy. So I am happy to say that it was super stressful, but I managed to piece her back together. I even got that curve up at the top with my C, and at the end of the day, she was gorgeous and it was truly worth the trouble. Once I got that decal figured out and corrected, it is amazing. It's gorgeous. I'm so happy that I stuck with it. And I did not need to seal this tumbler and it was ready for another coat of epoxy. So for this next coat of epoxy, I am using Counterculture DIY's Fast Set. Here she is, finished and completed, and oh my Christmas. I love it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if so, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tutorials coming soon. Also, be sure to come back tomorrow for another Christmas tutorial. And thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you soon.